And there isn't a way around this, so this is the only way. Alright, he's stuck. I gotta go winch pull him out. Oh, you get the snatch strap out of your toolbox. I don't know if you can see that sign. It says badly eroded, poor condition, and a bunch of people have written, do not enter unless you have a sand track. It's if you choose to go, you can't change your mind, no turnaround. So, alright guys, welcome. Here we are, 2021, new year. I've just got back from a 2-week trip. Just sort of New Year's, bit of camping, whatnot, a bit of touring type stuff. Yeah, I've got a bit of footage and a few things, so we're just gonna sort of go through it, show you what I got up to. Pretty much started Boxing Day, headed out early, heading to Echuca for New Year's. So that was a big trip with a lot of mates. Had grouse weather up there the whole time, didn't get hit by any rain surprisingly, even though it went right through Echuca, we were just outside of it. Hung around there for a week, had a good New Year's. Lots of fun had a pretty good spot on the river there, so it was grouse. After New Year's, everyone was pretty sick and tired of staying at camp and drinking piss all day. So me and a couple of mates, we were heading eastwards. We're doing a high country trip, working from top to bottom. So on the 2nd, we headed out, went across towards Albury, Wodonga. A few hours driving there, a few hours highway driving. Went through Tallangatta, did our last sort of supply fuel run there. Diesel ain't cheap, fella. And then we're heading for a property in Lucy Vale. Our mates know someone that has a property up there on a few hundred acres. So stayed there for the first night. We left from the property, started off from the back of the property, heading towards the Benambra-Corryong Road to take that through towards Omeo. We ran into our first little sort of hold up, I suppose you call it, along there. There was a tree across the track. Do a bit of bloody...
Aussie Arvos track, mate.
That's it. Fresh one down. So
we had to get the winch out and snatch blocks and a few things to get it off the track so we could get past.
Alright, we got winch, snatch block, tree.
So that was the first bit of sort of interesting stuff, which was pretty good. Yeah, so from there, headed straight onto the Benambra-Corryong Road and booted our way all the way down to Omeo. Stopped in Omeo, got a bit of lunch, had a bit of a quick look around there before we were shooting up towards Hotham Heights. The weather was a bit of a doozy. Down in Omeo, it was beautiful weather, sunny, everything, it was grouse, but then as soon as we started heading up the Great Alpine Road towards Hotham, we were just getting we got a few big pour downs, absolutely come pissing down on the road. And then before we knew it, we were pretty much in the clouds. Surprising weather for whatever it was, the 3rd of Jan. It was like the middle of winter up there. It wasn't that cold, but it was just foggy as, raining, creeping along at like 30k an hour across the road because you couldn't see anything. Everyone had their hazards on. So that was pretty cool being up there in the middle of summer and it being like that. Did have a close run in there. One of my mates, as he was coming along, big rock slab come off the wall right in front of his car. It was probably about like 3 foot long and about 2 foot wide, big slab. Would have crushed the bonnet, but lucky it just landed in front of his car, so it was pretty gnarly. From there, we headed down to Twins Jeep Track, which is just next to the Dargo High Plains Road, just out of Hotham Heights there. And then from there, that was pretty much the start of our 4-wheel driving. So we aired down, all of us, 20 PSI, and we pretty much had the hubs locked from there on out. So we're creeping along the Twins Jeep Track towards our first camp, which we decided to go to what we thought was going to be a hut at Guy's Hut. But when we got there, realised it was just a ruined hut. So it was just a pile of corrugated iron, pretty much. But it was still flat enough area that we could camp out, which is good. So pulled up there for the first night, fairly late, and the weather was sort of starting to set in, so it was good we got camp set up before it all got too crazy. And we had a pretty big day. We covered like 280 Ks that day, so we did a few really, and a fair bulk of that was on dirt as well. Yeah, so the next day, got up from there, from top of a mountain at Guy's Hut, and that day we're heading to Wanangata Cattle Station. So on the way there, we had a pretty good run. At one stage, we came across a tree across the track, but this was like a big gum, and it was not budging, and there was sort of already evidence of people trying to drive around it. So it was sort of like you've got your track, and then it sort of drops down the side of a hill a bit on the side to get around it. So we're like, oh, we'll have to give it a stab. And first Jack in the Landcruiser went to go around it and he just had no chance. So we had to winch him up and out around it, and then we figured it was going to be the same for everyone else.
And then go this way. Come. You can't stop. You're going to have to keep momentum. No.
Try. Right there. Alright, turn uphill. Go. Wait. Go.
No. Might have to winch.
You have to winch.
We'll get the snatch block out.
So we got one of the boys he set up on the track with the winch to a snatch block and back down the hill, because one of the boys didn't have a winch, and he was able to slowly, we sort of using the max tracks as well, we're able to sort of get close to coming up, and then we just have to winch back up onto the track.
Drive that. Jesus.
Slippery. Alright, go in. Whoa. Just winch only. Winch, just keep winching.
Give it a little bit.
Hang on, wait. Whoa.
Stop.
Good.
And then left hand. No, that's good. Yeah.
Whoa.
As you can see there, we all had to go and none of us really got it quite, so the winch and the max tracks were definitely a must-have for that. So once we got past that obstacle, there was a couple small river crossings through there as well.
Alright, so we're about to cross the Wanangata River, or creek, I can't remember what it is. It's pretty shallow. Hopefully clean the underside of the cars a tiny bit.
Yeah, and then we ended up at the Wanangata cattle station. We had fairly good weather that day once we dropped off the mountains. It was fairly clear. Had a look around and then found a campsite right on the Wanangata River, which was nice. So we were able to have a shower for like the first time or like a clear water sort of wash, I suppose, for the first time in like a week and a bit. Stayed there for the night. It was cool. I was sitting in the plains and it's just mountains on the side, the ranges, and looking right through. And then the weather there was pretty cool too. The tops were all covered in clouds, but we stayed pretty dry actually on the bottom there, which was good. So from Wanangata cattle station, that day we're heading to Chester's Hut. So first track out of there was the Zika Spur track. At the start there's a little play section which you'll see there, because one of the boys was like, oh, go drive over that. So it's just like a little, on a corner, it just sort of went up and around, and then there was a few wombat holes, got a bit of flex out of the leaf springs, which was cool. Nothing too crazy though. Zika Spur track was good. That's a good track, and we had a beautiful day for it as well, so good views. That worked us across to Butcher Country track, so from near off the Howard High Plains road there, Butcher Country track comes off, and that's a pretty long track. But we followed that the whole way down close towards the McAllister River, I believe it is. And from there we turned onto Blue Plains Spur track, which is sort of like our first difficult four-wheel driving track. And everyone was scratching their cars the whole way. Like our cars were, the tray, like my tray was just full of sticks and leaves and that. There was a few bog holes, as you'll see. One of the first ones we come to, it was sort of like only one real obvious way to get through, and Jack sent it into the hole and got bogged straight away.
All right, so we got our first sort of bog hole. So Brent going to send it through, see how it goes. And there isn't a way around this, so this is the only way. Oh! Alright, he's stuck. I gotta go convince pull him out. Oh, you get the snatch strap out of my toolbox, Drew. Nah. You got snatch. All good. Jesus Christ. was deep.
So we had to snatch him out, and then you could sort of just get around, so we were able to get around it. And then there was a couple more smaller bog holes through there before we came to like a sort of harder, not crazy hard, but it was actually like a steeper rocky section. So a small river crossing, and then up into a hairpin that went into like a sort of steep rocky track. Definitely felt like I lifted a few wheels going up there. It's fairly steep. And then that started our climb up onto the ridge where we came onto Grimmy Creek track, which was, we were told, was pretty hard. And as we were coming up, the weather set in and it absolutely started pissing down.
6th of Jan. Normally you'd think it'd be like 35, 40 degrees up here and you just sweat your balls off, dust everywhere, but it's actually pissing down.
And so luckily we'd already done the hard bit up, but it was actually probably more sketchy because we now had to do the descent in the wet, and the tracks were just flowing like rivers on the way down, and we were coming down real slow. First gear low range the whole time, off the brakes, just pretty much just letting the car idle down the hill.
Alright, so we're on Grimmy Creek track now, and it's still pissing, and I was just saying to Jack, you understand why they close tracks in the winter when it's like this, because it's just not safe really, and it's sketchy. Lucky for us, this track's pretty rocky, so there's still a bit of grip, so I'm literally just first low, don't even have my foot on the throttle or the brakes heavy because I don't want to lock up my wheels, and literally just crawling. But that's 4-wheel driving in the bloody high country, mate.
And from there we were able to come across and then come into Chester's hut, which we luckily had to ourselves.
Alright. Chester's. Bit of battery changing going on.
Fuck off, cunt.
Chester's hut. Not bad. Got it all to ourselves, which is nice. Drew's lost his 10mm socket.
Oh, I got a 10mm on this piece of the 12.
Prado troubles, Toyota things.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Alright. Yeah, got a copy. Alright, so we're going to be doing, to my surprise, I didn't realise we were going to do it, but it works out a lot quicker rather than going all the way around. Going to do Barkley River Jeep track. So I've seen this on YouTube a few times. I know there's a big corner with a wheel lift and that. So we've got all the winches out. So we'll see how we go. I'd probably just leave a bit of room between cars. Oh, this is already looking hard.
It says on the sign here, warning, if you choose to go, you can't change your mind, stay committed, no turnaround spots. What's that?
Let me just have a look around this corner real quick, give me a sec.
Let's go for a walk up the track.
After looking at the track and thinking about the cars that we have, it probably isn't smart because it actually looks a lot harder. Looks a lot harder than I expected, to be honest. And there actually is a sign at the start that says no turnarounds, only going in if you've got a really capable 4-wheel drive sort of thing. Yeah, see, so there you go. I don't know if you can see that sign. It says badly eroded, poor condition, and a bunch of people have written do not enter unless you have a scent track. It's fucked. If you choose to go, you can't change your mind, no turnaround. So it looks like we'll give it a miss because if I had a twin locked coil patrol on 35s, yeah, maybe, but there's no way that my car would have made it up there without winching, let alone Drew's car, who hasn't got a winch in the Prado. I mean, I like some of Jack's Landcruiser, they got winches, but it was pretty flogged out the track, and I definitely would have had to winch. And it's probably not really the best spot to be
day, but still cool to see how, I mean, you get an idea of what sort of things people are driving in their cars when you see something like that. Like it's, yeah, pretty hardcore stuff.
We got Mark. Might be here a while.
Yeah, it looks like it.
So from Chester's Hut to work our way down to Jamison, we went onto the Mountain Ash Spur track, followed that onto Middle Ridge Road. But as we were coming along, we got held up by SES. We were clearing a few big trees that had fallen across the Middle Ridge Road. So we waited there. We weren't waiting that long, 20 minutes or something. And then we eventually come to the turn off to Lazzarini Spur track. So we figured we'd do that instead of going up right over Skeen and then Snake Edwards, because it puts you in the same spot anyway. So I did Lazzarini's. That was a good track, good big steep descents, which was actually pretty cool. Would have been a good one to come back up actually. But that dropped us down onto the Goulburn, so crossed the Goulburn at the bottom there, and then onto Army track, which takes us out onto the Mansfield Woods Point Road. And at that point we were pretty much done with the four-wheel driving sort of side of the trip. I think we'd been four-wheel driving for like 4 or 5 days, I think. But yeah, we pulled up on the Mansfield Woods Point Road, camped there for the night before we headed into Jamison, because a mate that stays up there has a house up there. So that was nice, being able to stay in a house after being in the bush for a while. So yeah, and then we had a good time in Jamison, just sort of chilled out, did a bit of fishing and that. And yeah, that pretty much, after 2 nights there, that marked the end of the trip, and I made my way back home. It was good. I'd been away since Boxing Day, so because I got home yesterday, it was like 2 weeks and a day or 2. Patrol went grouse the whole time, didn't have any issues whatsoever, did everything I wanted to. Yeah, all the cars had no issues, which was grouse, because it makes life a hell of a lot easier. The only one thing the one big takeaway is just the camping setup, which we will address in a future video, because camping in the rain when everything's in the tray is it's just not fun at all, not having an awning. Like, I had to set up a tarp for me swag a couple nights, and everything in the tray just gets soaked. When we're driving through the day, camp chair was just everything getting soaked. The fridge is always getting wet, which, I mean, it can deal with, but it's not ideal. It's just harder. So we will be addressing camping setup, hopefully a canopy, awnings, things like that. We'll see what happens. But other than that, yeah, grouse trip, and definitely be going on a few more soon. This wasn't a dedicated filming trip or anything, so there's sort of minimal footage, but there will be we're going to be doing a proper documented trip, I'd say, pretty soon. We'll get away and do something good and take our time to film it all properly. But yeah, this is just pretty much a recap of what I got up to. So I'd love to hear what you guys got up to over the New Year's break. Comment down below, let us know what you did. Hopefully you thought what I did was somewhat interesting. I enjoyed it, so that's all that matters, I suppose. Yeah, give us a like, give us a subscribe if you want, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.